Hello and welcome to the holiday panel here at ConTinual. Tonight we are talking about snacks galore. Yes, we are talking about holiday snacks, daytime snacks, nighttime snacks, fantasy snacks, any kind of snack you want. We're going to talk about what our panelists love to snack on and maybe inspire you to run out to the kitchen as soon as you're done watching. So before we get started, let's have our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Larry.
Hey everyone, I'm Larry Martin, author and co-author, often with Gail Z. Martin, my partner in both life and work. And I have two works under my own name, Salvage Rat and The Splintered Crown. And then we have a number of series with Falstaff, including Spell, Salt, and Steel, Wasteland Marshals, and the Shadow Council Archives Joe Max series.
Okay, Stacey.
Hi, I'm Stacey Wallace. I'm also Stacey Wallace Benefiel and Roxy Clark, and I write romance, sweet, contemporary, paranormal, all of those.
Very nice. Gabbi.
My name is Gabbi Gray. I write gay romances, and under my pen name Gabbi Black, I write dark erotic BDSM romances.
Okay, Jeanne.
I'm Jeanne Adams. I write urban fantasy, paranormal romantic suspense, and space adventure with my co-panelist, Nancy Northcott.
And Nancy.
And I'm Nancy Northcott. I write historical fantasy for Falstaff Books, and I independently publish romantic suspense, romantic spy adventure, paranormal romance, and with Jeanne, the Outcast Station science fiction adventure / mystery / whatever we feel like series.
And I'm Gail Z. Martin and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic fantasy, urban fantasy, near future post-apocalyptic, as Larry's mentioned, and more. And as Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But there's food in all of them. And I've got an editor who, if I try to skate by and say they had dinner, I will get comments that go, what did they have? How was it cooked? Where did they eat? And how did it taste? So now I have learned that I have to include the food porn in the first draft, or, you know, in the draft she gets, or I'm just going to have to put it in later. And the same holds with snacks. So let's start with inspirational snacks. Have you ever read about a snack? And it doesn't have to be in a book. It can be in a magazine or something. Have you ever read about a snack and said, ooh, someday I want to try that? And I'm going to start with Stacey this time.
Oh man, let's see. I suppose that I have heard of delicious things like frozen hot chocolates and stuff like that in books that I have tried before. That probably didn't look as nice as described, but probably tasted as good. In my former life, before I was an author, I was a caterer, so I've been around a lot of snacks.
Can't wait to hear. Gabbi.
For me, it was beaver tails. I had not heard of what a beaver tail was, and it's dough and cinnamon fried. It's amazing.
That has never been near an actual woodland beaver.
Absolutely true.
Jeanne.
Well, if it's got cinnamon on it, I'm eating it. I had never heard of now I can't remember what they're called, but they're like shortbread cookies with a chocolate kiss in them, and you bake them, and I'm like, really, seriously, I'm eating that. And it sounds really silly, but one of the things I had read this in a book, and I had forgotten about orange slices. You remember those things that you used to get in the bag? Every gas station, truck stop. And not too long ago, I had read something about them in a book, and I thought I had got to have an orange slice. And they were just as good as gooey and sugary and terrible as I remember.
Mm-hmm. Nancy?
Well, I've been sitting here thinking, and honestly, I read women's magazines and I read the recipes when I'm in a waiting room, and I pretend that I cook, because actually I don't. I'm terrible at it. And they had this thing that was like rolled dough, but it was like crescent roll dough, and they put cheese in the middle of it. and then they rolled it up from the sides and cooked it. And on the one hand, that looked really fascinating and really tasty. And on the other hand, it looked like a lot of work. So it's highly unlikely that I'll ever actually have these cheese rolls. But they looked like the kind of thing, because really there's very little difference between a snack and a party food. You know, it's the setting that makes the difference. And so you could use this for either one. But if my having one is dependent on my actually going into the kitchen and making it, that's probably not ever going to happen. I'll just think about it.
Larry.
I think the most memorable food in a book, and Gail, you can correct me if I get it wrong, I think it was a Janet Ivanovich book, which was the Krispy Kreme bread pudding, which starts with a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts, fruit cocktail, and of course includes a glazed icing over the top in addition. And we have made this on a number of occasions, and it's a sugar high.
I'm thinking that's big, yeah.
Yeah, the character uses it to get out of a traffic ticket, I think. She brings it to the cops as a peace offering, and they, of course, let her out of her traffic ticket after they eat this donut-infused casserole. It's awesome, but your fillings will vibrate afterwards. I think for me, the most adventurous one that I remember reading about as a kid was escargot, because, you know, my little corner of northwestern Pennsylvania did not serve escargot. And so that just, after I learned how to pronounce it, that it wasn't escargot, I was very intrigued by that, and finally got to eat it many, many years later as an appetizer at Epcot. And I personally liked it, but your mileage may vary. I think the most disappointing version of a snack was foisted on me by the Nancy Drew cookbook when I was in middle school. And it was a recipe to make, purportedly, baklava. However, instead of phyllo dough, which was not as readily available back then, it had you using corn tortillas.
Ew.
Yes, I used a whole lot of honey and a whole lot of corn tortillas. And it really put me off trying the real thing for many years, until I realized phyllo dough is completely different. So you have to be careful on some of these recipes, because you could be missing out on a really good thing if you get a bad recipe.
Or you could
So-
be making a Jello mold with weird crap in it. One of those old recipes.
I went over to my friend's grandma's house one time, and she served that. She served like a Jello mold every time the kids came over, because she thought that they loved it. But it had like pomegranate seeds and lettuce in it, and some sort of like mayonnaise-y sauce. I don't know where that
the things our moms and grandmoms did with gelatin is really kind of criminal.
Yeah.
Well, Larry, your mom kind of did that with, wasn't it bananas in the Jello with your dad?
Yeah, it wasn't any weird vegetables, but for a number of years, she had made Jello and always made sure to put bananas in it because my dad loved them. I was probably a freshman in college when I said, you know, Mom, I really don't like bananas in the Jello. Can we do it without? And she's, but your dad, I don't like it either.
Oops.
And he had eaten it for, well, longer than me.
Decade.
Yep. Aw.
The secret to a long marriage. Gabbi, any thoughts on snacks that you always wanted to try, or ones that you have tried and would really recommend?
I had to bring it.
Okay. Ooh,
It's
what is?
It is a cranberry bliss bar, and here's where I do the product endorsement. It's from Starbucks, and I didn't think I was a fan of cranberries, so the first few times I saw it, I didn't try it, and then one day I was desperate and I tried it. So I have to tell you, it's a blonde cake with dried cranberries topped with cream cheese icing, orange drizzle, and more dried cranberries. And let me tell you, it's amazing. And so my treat every year at Christmas is to buy myself a little tray and work my way through them.
That is totally understandable.
Sounds yeah.
Jeannie,
That's
how about you?
my guilty pleasure for that kind of thing is here at Christmas time, they always have them are those big trays. They're trays of baklava in various forms and, you know, rolled and cut and diamonds and things like that. And it, as you pointed out earlier, Gail, has enough sugar in it to vibrate your fillings. But you know, one a day, I limit myself to one a day. I just love baklava, and it's one of my favorite, you know, treats that you sort of guilty pleasures that. That and fudge. Christmas time is like when my mother used to make fudge, and she'd make an enormous pan of it, and she'd make half of it with pecans and half of it without, because my father and one of my brothers don't like nuts in their fudge, and the rest of us did. So that was the other big holiday treat.
How about you, Nancy?
My mom made the best fudge, and she made it. The recipe was on the marshmallow cream jar. And she made that fudge I mean, one year she decided to deviate and make the fudge green with pineapple and called it Hawaiian fudge. And really, no, I mean, fudge is one of those things you really shouldn't tamper with.
That's Grinch fudge.
Yeah, I mean, it was very disappointing to me that I have never been able to make it, even though, you know, the recipe's right there, because I've never mastered the soft ball stage. You know, for people who have never tried to make fudge, you put some of the mixture in cold water and it's supposed to form a soft ball. And mine just forms sludge. So I'll never be able to make the fudge.
Well, then you'll never be tempted to diet green either. So,
well, I can guarantee you I would never be tempted to diet green. And I mean, it didn't even have any chocolate in it. It was just marshmallow stuff with sugar stuff and green stuff and pineapple. And it's, you know, maybe we should have someone on Outcast Station eat that. It's kind of Outcast Station-y, outer space.
Fudge and marshmallows, yeah.
It's just, I mean,
green.
She thought she was so inspired, and really it was just.
How about you, Larry?
I think the guilty pleasure I would put out is chocolate covered peanuts. Because I remember as a kid, my mom used to buy Brock's chocolate covered peanuts, and I'd steal them because they frequently entertained. So they were always around. But now I can make my own, and it's super easy. It's a bag of semi-sweet chocolate, a bag of butterscotch chips, and a can of peanuts. And you're set for chocolate covered peanuts.
Go to town.
Yeah, they're good too. Stacey?
Have you all had my mom calls it Christmas crack, but it's the like the saltine crackers with the toffee and chocolate. Oh my gosh, so easy to make and so good.
Yeah, that's right up there with the 7-layer cookie bar things. They're just, you can't stop with one.
Those are my favorite. I was gonna bring those up for sure. She always makes those for me too. We have like awfuls. I have an awful sweet tooth, so my mom always makes me all kinds of treats because I can't make it at my house, or I'll eat the whole tray for sure.
Yeah, I think, you know, Gabbi mentioned Starbucks, and the thing that tempts me at Starbucks are those cake pops. I know they're ridiculously overpriced, but they're so moist on the inside, and you can rationalize it by saying it's only 1 or 2 bites, so it can't be that bad for you. But those are a treat, and anytime I can get either lemon bars or raspberry bars. There used to be an independent coffee shop near here that sold really good raspberry bars, and my oldest daughter and I would stop there on the way back from something and get those, and that was kind of a little treat, but they're not around anymore, so I have not found my source for raspberry bars, but those are really good.
So can I just add something?
Yeah,
I was at Panera on Friday, and they had lemon cookies, and I'm telling you, those lemon cookies were awesome. So, I mean, I thought about getting one to eat in the car, but what saved me is they had powdered sugar on them, and I could see that becoming a disaster between there and home. But so just putting in a bid for Panera lemon cookies there.
Yeah.
those are good. And you're right, one bite and the powdered sugar is now all over you and the car and everything within a 30-mile radius. Yeah, it's
I don't
kind
know.
of.
They sound so good though. That might be worth it.
Or you just say to your dog, hey, come and
Yeah.
she'll
Come help me with
take
this
care of
little
any
problem.
powdered sugar. She's good.
Yeah.
The powdered sugar reminds me of what Stacey was talking about with the 7-layer cookies. My aunt used to make trays of all different kinds, including baklava. And there was one cookie she had that sort of looked like the pecan shortbread round with the powdered sugar, but it was chocolate
Ooh,
and coconut
yummy.
and nuts. And it was last year, I finally contacted her, I said, can I have the recipe? And we figured out it's the 7-layer cookie. You scoop it when it's hot, roll it into a ball, and cover it in powdered sugar.
Wow.
So good, but it's disguised.
Right.
It sneaks up on you.
So back in the day when we had offices and office parties, people would often, fill the whole break room or conference room with snacks. What was your go-to snack to take if you were going to take an appetizer to a work party or a Super Bowl party or any kind of event? Jeannie?
Oh gosh, I love to cook, so I would make all kinds of things. But one of the things we always called Christmas crack is that Rice Krispie Chex Mix, salty, sweet mix that everybody talks about around the holidays. That disappears like it is crack. I always make, Nancy was talking about crescent rolls. You can take an apple slice, and the Honey Crisps are really good, but you separate it out like you're going to roll up the crescent roll into the triangles, and you sprinkle it with brown sugar and cinnamon, and you put an apple slice in it, roll it up and bake it. And they're almost like little hand pies or that kind of pie. So I take those all the time, and those get gobbled up. And gosh, what are the other things I used to do? I used to do all sorts of things for corporate stuff because, like I said, I like to cook, but pigs in a blanket, those kind of things. And I'd make those by hand, so those were fun too.
Okay, Nancy?
Well, there was a Krispy Kreme really near my office. And so sometimes if I was in a hurry, I would just swing through the Krispy Kreme drive-through, and we had a big office. So I would get like 5 dozen of the glazed Krispy Kreme donuts because, hey, those are classics. And if you put them in a microwave, it's just like they're fresh. But when I actually had the time to fix something, it has to be something easy. So I would take cream cheese and buy chopped green and black olives and mix it in it and take Triscuits. And that cream cheese and olive mix on the Triscuit, there's something about the salty and the creamy that is really, they seem to be pretty popular. And so those, if I had to actually produce something my own self, it would be that.
Okay. Larry?
Actually, before I tell you what I took to the party, I also say, Nancy, I have a recipe for a toasted pecan olive spread. That's what you said, but adding toasted pecans to it.
Ooh, yummy.
So yes,
Might
it
need
is
that.
very good and very popular. My go-to was always meatballs. Same aunt's recipe, but once I made it, I was always required to bring a crock pot of meatballs, which is sort of in a base of chili sauce, brown sugar, and vinegar. So are sort of sweet and sour, especially once they caramelize after they've been sitting in the crock pot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crowd pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
Stacey?
My go-to is stuffed mushrooms.
yummy.
The ones that I like to make have sausage and apple and gorgonzola cheese in them. And I don't so much, I kind of stuff the mushrooms, but each mushroom gets a little bit, and then I just put the rest of the filling on top, and everyone just eats the filling with like bread too. The plate is always empty in like 5 minutes when I bring those. So Yeah, those are my definite go-to. But, I also really like to make a sweet gorgonzola dip. Gorgonzola and brown sugar and heavy cream just whipped
Wow.
together. It's so delicious and kind of a weird one that you don't see very often.
Okay. Gabby?
I was gonna go with meatballs, but Larry beat me to it. Although I didn't make mine, I just bought President's Choice from the local grocery store and cooked them all up and made it look like I'd been invested in the whole thing. The other thing I did, which again did not come from me because I'm less competent in the kitchen than Nancy is, I did the 7-layer dip. So the guacamole, the sour cream, the salsa sauce, the cheese, the onions, the chives, and I'm missing a layer, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's always good, especially with some tortilla chips. I mean, that's hard to beat. For me, I love cream cheese. No matter what you do to cream cheese, I've never had anything that I wouldn't eat if it had cream cheese in it. So the two of my favorites that I like to bring, one was a hot crab dip, which was cream
yum.
cheese, and I think a little lemon juice and lump crab, and I think some cheese melted on top. And with crackers, it seemed kind of fancy, but it was really easy to make. The other one is cream cheese with some chopped onion and a drained can of chicken. Same sort of thing, chicken ball, also really good on Triscuits, and I could just sit down and eat the whole thing myself. But the one that really went over well, especially, was I got it off a postcard from a real estate agent that showed up in my mailbox and said, "Oh, I'm never going to hire the real estate agent, but this recipe looks really good." And it was a vegetable pizza. So you used crescent rolls for the dough and spread the crescent rolls, unrolled them and spread the crescent rolls out over a sheet pan. Covered it with cream cheese that had been mixed with dry Hidden Valley Ranch, the powdered stuff. So it had a little more than, it was jazzier than just cream cheese. And then you cut up into small bites, whatever kind of vegetables you wanted to put on the top: peppers, broccoli, carrots, whatever. And you bake the crust first, and then you spread the cream cheese and put the vegetables on it. So it was a cold appetizer, but it was really good and very filling and super easy. So that postcard from the real estate agent is still in our recipe box, and I have made that many, many times.
Now, cream cheese is one of those go-to things to have in the refrigerator because you can do just about anything with it. And so you can spread a can of chili sauce over it and salsa and different things, and you can do it sweet, you can do it savory. It's always something you can do. And having crackers around,
Yeah,
you're ready for the ball game.
Well, one of those quintessential Southern things is a smear of cream cheese on a cracker with some red pepper jelly on top.
Yeah.
And that is deceptively good for being as easy as it is.
Yeah. That and pimento cheese on Ritz crackers with, like an olive or something like that. That'll make you slappy pappy.
Yeah.
I asked some of my fans what their contribution was, what they would pick, and one of them was like cheese, anything cheese, just cheese. Cheese ball is the best because that's the most amount of cheese that you can get per square footage, but any cheese. I thought,
I like your fans. I'm with them. If it involves cheese.
Yeah, one of our daughters ate an entire container of Trader Joe's pub cheese once, and her comment was,
"Oh Lord."
In my defense, I was left unsupervised with cheese. She's totally my daughter. I completely get that. So Nancy, if you're out at a restaurant that has a great appetizer menu, what are you going to look for first? What are your go-tos?
Well, usually something high in fat and or sugar.
Or
well, so usually, but one of the most interesting appetizers we had, I was talking about this to a friend today, was at Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen in downtown Disney. I've never seen it offered anywhere else. And we just ended up there because we had gotten to California about 7 o'clock, but for our bodies, it was 10 o'clock. And so we're just looking for a place where they didn't say, well, it'll be a 45-minute wait, because, we wanted to eat and go to bed. And so we had never been there before, and we tried it. And the waiter was recommending the appetizer of the day, which was crawfish egg rolls. Now, I used to pull crawfish out of the creek in the woods with my friend Evelyn when I was little. And I was not at all sure that I wanted to be actually eating this creature that I remember pulling out of the creek. But we ended up trying an order of them, and they were really good. I have no idea how you make them, and I've never seen them offered anywhere else. And if I did have any idea how to make them, I wouldn't do it because they would be not recognizable. But they were really good, just for future reference.
Okay, Larry?
Probably the first one I look for is spinach and artichoke dip. That's usually my first go-to. But there have been a lot of different things. I still remember the first time I tried fried pickles, and I was so confused, and yet, wow, they were good.
Yeah, it's an unusual taste, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's interesting. Some places will fry them as the whole spear, and others will fry the slices. So it kind of depends on whose fried pickles you're getting, what kind of.
I'm team spear.
Team spear. Okay. Stacey, how about you? What's your go-to on a menu?
So we're going out to dinner later this evening, and we always get this appetizer at the place we're going to. It's like warm Cambozola cheese, and then there's like fig jam and little crostini, and it's just, I don't know. I might mention gorgonzola in like every single thing I talk about this whole time, but
Won't hurt our feelings.
yeah, we always get that. In fact, we were like trying to figure out where to go for dinner tonight. We were like, we haven't had that in a really long time. So yeah.
How about you, Gabby?
I live up in British Columbia, and there's a restaurant that's native here. They make this amazing mushroom Gruyere flatbread with arugula on it.
Ooh, yummy.
If you take off the arugula, it's really amazing.
Oh, that sounds so good. Jeannie?
Oh gosh, I'm sort of with Larry as a family. When we go out, we always have to order the spinach dip. And one of the most interesting times we ever got an appetizer, though, was we went to Clyde's on the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina, and they had an order of corn dogs as an appetizer, and they were about the size of a quarter, and so it was like a slice, like a coin from a hot dog, and dipped in the batter. And then they had like all these different mustards and sweet and sour sauces and all that sort of thing. It was awesome. And we were all like, can we have another order of those?
Fancy corn dogs.
I think we ended up like taking most of our dinner home because we filled up on corn dogs. But I'm also extremely fond of flatbreads and things like that. So I always love those too. Because bread and cheese, because so
Yeah.
Now, I'll admit that at like TGI Fridays, I love their fried green beans, and those are really good with kind of horseradish dipping sauce, really yummy. The ones you can get at the grocery store that say TGI Fridays don't really compare. And really good potato skins, with some sour cream and bacon bits. That's pretty yummy as well. So those are two I'll look for on a menu if they're available. If it's a Chinese place, I'm going to go for pot stickers.
crab rangoon.
And crab rangoon, yeah.
So
Pot
good.
sticker right there, yeah. All right, so another great place to get your snack on is if you're at a fair or an amusement park. They have all kinds of stuff you don't usually get anyplace else. what do you start looking for if you go to the fairgrounds? Larry?
My go-to at the fair is the hot sausage sandwich with onions and peppers, because I don't get it anywhere else and it's not the same.
Yeah, no, if you try to cook it, it isn't the same. I don't know what they do, but it's not the same. How about you, Stacey?
I definitely will always get funnel cake or elephant ear, kind of that kind of fried dough.
Gabby?
Oh, cotton candy, because I don't get it anywhere else. It's got to be cotton candy.
And you know, you guys can list more than one because there's so much good stuff at the fair. I always identified with Templeton the Rat in Charlotte's Web, that he does this whole song about all the stuff you can eat at the fair, and I was right there with him. Jeannie?
Oh gosh, I absolutely love fried dough. I love the Belgian waffles. I tried a fried Mars bar once, and it was just way too much. I was like, whoa, sugar coma. But yeah, fair food is just awesome. And I can't do the sandwiches like Larry was talking about, although they smell divine. But I'm usually there for, like, you know, the fried food, especially the fried sweet things like the fried dough and stuff like that. That's my deal.
Yeah. Nancy?
Well, it used to be cotton candy because I love pulling it apart and I love the way it dissolves when you put it in your mouth. But then I got older and I became dainty about being sticky all over my hands and my face. So now I'm in the fried dough crowd because that's easier to clean off. But I love them both. And we watched this show on the Food Network. This guy goes to fairs all over the country and finds people fixing elaborate things. I mean, some of them are so big, you go, you can put that in a human mouth? And these people manage it, and it looks so good. And he's about as big around as a pencil, so he can't possibly be eating all of that. But some of the things he shows I'd like to try, because I'm sure they're terrible for me and they taste great, but I've never actually seen them. So I'm mostly the fried dough crowd these days.
One of my sons, he has like a dream of his is to go, I believe it's the Minnesota State Fair, to get like they have buckets of chocolate chip cookies. He thinks that would be the most awesome thing ever. And I mean, I kind of agree. But yeah.
I lived about a mile from a fairgrounds, and going was a huge thing every summer. And it wasn't expensive to get a ticket. And so, you know, my best friend and I in high school would just go and spend all day, every day for a week checking out the fair. And one of the things that they had, which was unusual for Northwestern Pennsylvania, since we weren't Wisconsin, was cheese curds. I'd never had them before, but you could get a whole cup of cheese curds. And this struck me as very unusual. And so we had to try them, and they were really good. I don't know how they ended up in Pennsylvania, but they were really good. And I know it's kind of basic, but I am a sucker for really good French fries. The theme park near us had a boardwalk fries station that just made I don't know what they did to the fries that was so good, but they were so good. And the Kennywood, the theme park outside of Pittsburgh, was known for excellent French fries. So to me, walking around on a nice day at a theme park with all the other good stuff there and having a big bucket or a big cup of hot French fries with plenty of ketchup and malt vinegar, you know, that's just a really good day.
Have you ever gotten the like block of curly fries? Like they fill the whole fry basket? Yeah. Yeah.
Just soak that sucker in ketchup and go to town.
Yep.
And while we're talking about it, let's go there with like onion rings and, you know,
love
all
onion rings.
kinds of things. Oh, so good. And then the Canadian version poutine.
I don't know. I've never tried that. What is that?
It
So
is
good.
a much fancier version of what we call garbage fries. So it is fries with toppings on it.
Okay.
And I didn't realize, Gabby, how seriously you guys take poutine until I went to a restaurant in Toronto that was owned by a former hockey player, because of course it was. And the entire back page of the menu was different poutine toppings. There had to have been more than 20 in a row. And it was like, darn, I never thought about putting those on fries, but
The traditional poutine is, of course, you've got the French fries, you've got the cheese curds, and you've got the gravy. But that's as plain as it gets. You can go anywhere from there.
what kind of toppings have you found good? Because that's not a specialty we get much of down here, if any.
I'm a huge maple fan, so a little bit of maple syrup sprinkled in with some little bacon bites. Delicious.
Ooh.
That's kind of like, around the DC area where I am, at nachos. I mean, there are people put all sorts of stuff on nachos. They'll change it up. Sometimes it's the typical, like liquid cheese and jalapenos and stuff like that. But sometimes you get it with sausage, and you get it with ground beef, or you get, green peppers on it. And I'm like, dude, give it a shot.
So, and you brought up something great there, Jeannie, which is regional snack specialties. Maybe something you tried when you were on vacation, or something you happened upon when you were somewhere traveling, and it's just a regional specialty. Anybody want to share one of those that you found that maybe you wouldn't have found it back home, but darn, this is good, I'm going to have to try it?
Crab cakes. You cannot come to Maryland without having crab cakes.
And I think where they're little, they're not even like an entree. They're little snack.
Yeah.
Size.
Well, about that size.
Mm-hmm. Coin size. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Nanaimo bars. I had them first back in Ontario, and it's a layer of cream or custard, and it's a layer of chocolate on top, and then sort of like a fudge brownie on the bottom. It's this layered thing. And I just knew them as Nanaimo bars, and it wasn't until I moved to British Columbia and I discovered, yes, they're actually named after the city of Nanaimo, and they are amazing and decadent, and I just love them.
That sounds wonderful.
I've heard of those, but I've never gotten to eat one, but they always come up in the list of Canadian specialties.
For a reason.
I used to work in public relations and marketing, and for a research park, and we would have these people from all over the world would come. And it was in North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham area, the Research Triangle Park. And for some reason, apparently, it's a worldwide thing that they want to know what an RC cola and a moon pie taste like. So there's your regional specialty. It's a sugar rush is what it is. Aha, yes, go Stacey.
That's funny.
I used to go to a manicurist who every Christmas would put out a big spread, for everybody who's coming in over those couple of days. And one of her specialties was a pound cake, a Sundrop pound cake, substituting Sundrop cola, which is a regional cola in the South, for whatever the other liquid was. And then she would do a confection of sugar and Sundrop glaze over the top. And it was really good. But again, one of those where your fillings were ringing for the next day, because I don't want to know how much sugar was in there.
Sugar rush.
Nancy, how about you?
Well, I like something that I learned about from my grandfather. And I don't know if it's a regional Southern thing or if it was just a him thing, but he would take a glass and put a tumbler-sized glass and put a couple of scoops of vanilla ice cream in it and pour Canada Dry ginger ale over it. And he gave me one. I was like 7 or 8, and I loved it. And as an adult, I adapted it to put chocolate ice cream and Coca-Cola, one of the Southern regional beverages. And that's really good. It's been more than a year since I've had it, because every time I have it, I can feel my arteries contracting, and you can only do that so many times. And actually, it's not bad with cherry Coke. So yeah, I see you, Jeannie. I see you. Jeannie does not appreciate the finer points of cherry Coke.
Oh,
but like I said, I don't know if it's a Southern thing or if it's just a my grandfather thing that I've adapted. But that is my my sweet treat that I guess is Southern. I'm not sure.
How about you, Larry? Oh, you're muted.
Jeannie reminded me of this one when she's talking about nachos, and it's not the Scotland version, just so we're clear, but the Hawaii version with ahi tuna.
Ooh,
I
yummy.
was really surprised how much I liked ahi tuna after that vacation because never thought of putting it on tacos, or nachos, but it worked.
Oh, that
Well,
sounds great.
it was the marinated ahi tuna that's cut up real fine. They call poke, and
Yummy.
that's what they put on the nachos. I was going to say that. You just stole that right off my list.
You can talk about the ones you like that none of the rest of us would eat in Scotland.
The haggis nachos.
They're
Well, you're in
awesome.
Scotland, haggis, nachos. Why not? You know,
Haggis is awesome. Well, I'll
Haggis
tell
is-
you one of the things I'm studying in Scotland this year, and although I'm at home for the holidays, one of the great things is scones. Oh my word.
Mhm.
They'll knock you over. They're so good. But what were you going to say, Gil?
oh no, I was agreeing. Stacey, how about you?
The first thing that comes to mind is, so I grew up in Missouri, but I've lived in Oregon for the past 20 years or so, and I never had this until I moved out here, but jicama jicama slices with lime juice and tahini, the like kind of salty, limey seasoning. It's yummy and really easy. Yeah. I like that. And gosh. Oh, I had another one. I just forgot it though.
Well, chime in when you think of it. I was going to mention that same vacation when we had the poke nachos. They also gave us Brussels sprouts that had not only bacon but kimchi with them, and oh my gosh, they are one of the two best Brussels sprouts recipes I've ever had in my life. I don't know what else might have been with them besides the bacon and the kimchi, but oh man, was that good. So there you go.
So I'm
Something you
glad
can-
to know it's good because it sounds horrible.
Oh, I think it sounds delicious. I like all those things.
Yeah, sometimes that's it. You look at it, and even if you haven't had it before, you go, well, I like all the ingredients. So if you put them together, what are the odds that I'm not going to like it? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Now, anybody who has moved around, either from where you grew up or have moved several times, are there any regional foods that you've just got to go back and buy when you go back to visit or find yourself going through that area that you can't get anywhere else? Gabbi?
I grew up with tiger tail ice cream, so orange cream with black licorice. And I actually wrote an entire book about tiger tail ice cream. I love it so much.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. And here I am in British Columbia, and it's from Southern Ontario. It's an Ontario thing. And I was just leaving an area where I had been living, and I found a guy who had it. And so I bought some. So fortunately, I didn't have to go back to Ontario to get my tiger tail ice cream.
Wow. Jeannie?
Oh gosh, I don't know that there's anything like that, but I did carry a 2-pound bag of pecans with me to Scotland because they don't use pecans over there and I can't live without them. And I used to, when I moved up here to Maryland, DC, every time I went home, I'd buy a bag of white lily flour because it's baking flour and they don't carry it up here in the DC area. But there weren't any really, oh wait, there is, yes, grits. But they're not a snack food.
You want to make
whenever I get super homesick, because I grew up in North Carolina, and when I ever get super homesick, my husband will take me to this wonderful place on 15th Street in DC. It's called Georgia Brown's, and they serve collards and they serve grits and they serve hot Southern cuisine. So if I'm ever feeling really super homesick, Ralph will be like, "Come on, let's go."
How about you, Nancy?
You know, I've lived most of my life in North Carolina, so I haven't really moved around a lot. But my husband grew up in the Rocky Mountains. And this is not a food that he is fond of. But it strikes me as distinctively regional, and they do serve it as an appetizer, and they're called Rocky Mountain oysters. And they are part of what we could politely call the package of a buffalo. And just the idea of that is like, I'm never eating that. If I were starving and that were my only choice, I would eat that. But conceptually, I find that troubling. But it is clearly a regional food.
Well, and probably like many things, if you grew up eating it and everybody you knew ate it and nobody told you what was in it, and you just eat it. I was like that with sardines for a long time. Larry?
The first thing I thought of was Isley's Chip Chopped Ham, which was very regional, and you really can't get it anywhere else, that we often have shipped in because once you grow up with it, it's just one of those comfort foods. As far as snack, the other one is Snyder's of Berlin cheese curls. They are not the same as Lay's, just not even close.
Yeah, much crunchier, much better. And they're not the same as Snyder of Hanover either. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Stacey?
The first thing that came to mind, well, two things came to mind. St. Louis style pizza, Emo's Pizza, really, really thin crust. And then it's got Provel cheese on it. And it's pretty much the only place you can get that. And it's so good. And then we have frozen custard out here, but it's not nearly as there was frozen custard everywhere in Missouri, and I miss having that instead of ice cream, which is what I have more often out here.
Yeah, growing up in Pennsylvania, we're a pretzel state, and so hard pretzels or soft pretzels with really good mustard and maybe a variety of mustards. That's hard to beat. So I'll go for that. Well, folks, we have blown through our time. Everybody's hungry now.
Yes.
And so before we wrap up, let's go around and let everybody know where they can find you online. And if you have a new, recent, or upcoming book, let us know. Nancy, starting with you.
You can find information about me and my work at www.nancynorthcott.com. You can contact me on social media most easily by reaching out to me on Twitter, where I spend more time than is good for me, and I am at Nancy Northcott. I do have a Facebook page, but I kind of tend to forget I have it, and I'm just learning Instagram, and my Instagram name, it's an odd name. I can't remember it. It's you put me in the search engine, it'll come up. So there's that. My most recent release is Mr. Never Again, which is a solo release of my story from the Trick or Treat at Caneham Castle 2020 anthology.
Okay. Jeannie and friend.
That's my Irish Water Spaniel Tucker, sorry. And the earlier one was my lab Daisy. You can find me at jeannieadams.com. You can find me here at ConTinual. You can find me on the hive of scum and villainy that's Twitter, because like Nancy said, I spend way too much time there. I'm on Instagram as JPA Griffin. And the last thing I did was trick or treat at the trick or treat at Caneham Castle, but there's a new one coming out is out now for New Year's, which is Ringing the New at Caneham Castle too. I'm not in that, but Gail is. So I'll pimp that one for you.
Okay, thank you. Gabbi?
I am at gabbigray.com or author Gabbi Gray on Instagram. My most recent release was called Ginger Snapping All the Way, and it's a gay romance.
I love it.
Okay. Stacey?
You can find me at writefreepress.com or Stacey Wallace on Facebook. My most recent release was I'll Be His for Christmas, a contemporary holiday romance.
Nice. Larry?
You can find me at larrynmartin.com, and from that site you can find it's a shared site with Gail. You can find all of our social media, all our accounts, all the ways to connect with us. And probably the book to mention is our Wasteland Marshall series, we have the next one coming out, Shutdown Crew, which should be out by the end of the month. So watch for that one.
Yep. I'm at galesmartin.com, which is the same as larryanmartin.com, and also at morganbryce.com. And you can find me on social media at some combination of names. Just spell the name right, you'll find me. As Larry mentioned, Shutdown Crew is the newest book, along with Ring in the New at Canham Castle, which is a collection of novellas written by multiple authors, all set in the same fictional castle in England, and this time for New Year's Eve. And that is brand new this month and a lot of fun. So thank you all so much for being with us. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There'll be more holiday goodness here on ConTinual, so we'll see you online.